Good morning. We start with Lama Tsongkhapa Guru Yoga from the small booklet. From the heart of the Savior of 100 deities of Tushita, on a peak of cloud resembling a clam of extremely white fresh curd, King of Dhamma, omniscient Losandrapa, please come here together with your sons. In the sky before me, on a lion throne, lotus and moon, my perfect pure Guru smiles with delight. Supreme field of merit for my mind of faith, please abide for 100 eons to spread the teachings. Your holy mind has the intelligence that understands the full extent of objects to be known. Your holy speech with its excellent explanations is an ear ornament for those of good fortune. Your holy body is radiantly beautiful with glory renowned. To you who are meaningful to see, hear, and remember, I prostrate. Pleasing drinking water, various flowers, fragrant incenses, lice, scented waters, and so forth. Oceans of cloud-like offerings, both actually arranged and mentally emanated, I offer to you the supreme field of merit. Whatever non-virtue of body, speech, and mind, especially those opposite to the three vows that I have collected from beginningless time, I confess each and every one with reverent regret from my heart. You strove for much learning and practice in this degenerate age, and made your freedoms and richnesses meaningful by abandoning the eight worldly concerns. Savior, we sincerely rejoice in your extensive deeds. Perfect pure holy gurus from the billowy clouds of wisdom and compassion in the sky of Dharmakaya, please let fall a rain of profound and extensive Dharma upon the receptacle of those to be subdued exactly as they need. May whatever virtue I have collected benefit the teachings and all transmigratory beings, and in particular may it cause the essence of perfect pure Losandrapa's teachings to shine forever. Sajipaki Chushing Metok Tramriravlinshi Nidegempadi Sangeshindu Miteoa Hidrokunanda Shila Chupashvo. By the merits of having offered this mandala to Lama Tsongkhapa and his two sons, may I, my family members, and all sentient beings be able to meet, practice, and actualize the teachings of the victorious one, Losandrapa, who had a morality of eminently pure way of life, was courageous in the extensive conduct of the sons of the victorious ones, and accomplished the yoga of two stages of supreme bliss and emptiness. Idam Guru Ratna Mandalakam Niryatayami. By the force of having fervently requested in this way, hollow beams of white light are emitted from the hearts of the perfect pure Father and Sons, and combining into one enter my crown. White nectar, the color of milk, flows from the opening of tube of white light, cleansing all my sicknesses, spirit harms, negative karmas, obscurations, and their imprints without exception. My body becomes as pure and clear as crystal. Now we recite the 5-line Miksema 3 times. Migme tsewe te chen chen rezik, drime gempe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, kanchen kepe tsungen tsong kapa, lo sandra be shabla soade. Migme tsewe te chen chen rezik, drime gempe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandra pe shabla soade. Migme tsewe te chen chen rezi, drime gempe wampo jampel yang, dupo malu jonze sawedak, kanchen gepe tsungen tsongkapa, lo sandra pe shabla soade. And I pray for the swift return of Lama Zopa Rinpoche by His Holiness the Dalai Lama. Peerless teacher and assembly of the children of the victorious ones, Shravakas and Pratyeka Buddhas, victorious Losang father and sons, along with the lineage masters, all the objects of refuge of infinite lands, please bestow the virtue and goodness of accomplishing this prayer here and now, holding and spreading the Muni's precious and complete teachings. Through explanation and practice, you wore the armor of patience that is never discouraged. Incomparable Venerable Guru, to you I make request. While striving single-pointedly for the sake of the victorious one's teachings, the sole gateway through which all benefit and happiness emerge, and for mother living beings, you suddenly departed to peace. What a great loss! Nevertheless, through the undeceiving truth of the blessings of the ocean of the three jewels, and the great waves of bodhicitta of the children of the victorious ones, may the smile of a reincarnation swiftly beam in a glory for fortunate disciples.
Sangye Chedong Chojun Chonum La Changju Pardu Dan Kyabsun Che Dagi Chushi Jebang de Dag Roland Benji Sangjin Drubar Sho Sangye Chedong Chojun Chonum La Changju Pardu Dan Kyabsun Dagi Chushi Jebang de Dagi Roland Benji Sangjin Drubar Sho Sangye Chedang Tsojin Chonum La Changju Pardu Dan Kyabsun Dagi Cheshe Jeban De Dagi Roland Ben Sanjin Drubar Sho Namo La Yike Dan Dano Jingi Tripon Dada Mi Yike Nam Dan Drawa Kunji Ranam Chizam Tamje Kedu Dagi Chedin Do 강기 두진이 존에 다와 통제 범비세를 담비춘 된제고 과담텔라 창세로 Good morning everyone. Long time no see. TY, how are you? Good. I think 6 or 7 weeks ago and I met in the Big Love KB lunchtime, TY, and she very worried for my treatment. Yes. And now my health is very good. And I think 12 years ago, I take lots of medicine, chemical medicine. Every day, I think 6 or 7 7 tablet for my diabetes, blood pressure, and stomach. And last couple of months, and my body is very heavy, not good, and I little bit eating is stomach is too full and then tired. Yeah, and then I see it's not good. And then not much choice, and then I choose this treatment. And yeah, I understand some my friends, some old student or students, they very worry for my health treatment, but my feeling is no choice. I need to go there because other no choice. I need to take every day this too much medicine. It's not good for me. And then I choose this, and then some friend, student, big help to me, and donations. And all students came here every Friday, prayer for me. This is very powerful. Thank you so much. And now it's 7 weeks ago, I stopped everything, medicine. And then last, I think 2 weeks ago, I checked, it's my, what's it, doctor? Yeah, doctor and GP, my GP. And she checked my blood pressure, my fatty liver. She said everything is normal. Yeah, and now my body is very relaxed, very light. Before I go treatment, I have almost 70 kilos. After treatment, after 2 or 3 weeks, I lost 11 or 12 kilos. And then the doctor gave me 10 kilos, 10-liter water bowl, or say,
Bottle.
yeah. And he said, you take this. It's very heavy. I take this. He said, you rubbish is gone. This rubbish is gone. Yeah.
Yeah. So that amount of weight is less.
Yeah. It's true. It's excellent. This is rubbish in my body.
Mm.
And then now I less eating, not hungry, very relaxed. Means thank you so much, everybody. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much. And I go there every morning. I think I get up almost 4:30, and I doing my and prayers, meditation, and then 7:38 we start treatment, clean inside, and need to go exercise, lots of exercise. And Kumbela help to me every day. I think 6-7 hours with me, help to me, big help, not easy, and very kind. And I thinking it's medicine Buddha, and they give me some what's it, some medicine liquors, and I pair medicine Buddha's mantra 7 or 21 times, and they give the blessing and then take. It's very happy for me. by doing this. Yeah. And yeah. So my English is not good. Okay, now we start Friday teaching. Toshina, Jenna,
That's it.
you.
You're welcome.
어딘이든 계란성 알아야 샘지 제요리 계란성 니체도 물론 제요리 아니게 계란성에 깔리테요리 공부만 좀로 아니 마음 발아야 지 나란 수고 대상다 딘지 더네 당가 가주스 아니 깔리게고도나 가주스 대고도나 대니 깔리게니 간지 펜도치야기 돌은 배준치기 니 니마치 아니 레얀 치그마레스 로 라마소르무치 ngalya 템바탄 조레 펜비 차와카리 요나 차랑 제고그리스 까테 페바인자 아니 직 산지기 템바탄 심징기 디길야 펜도치야기 니 레가 치투야기 니버지여바나 니 야시자타망이 니버드 땡치니 니 레가 치그리스 저는 스튜데 마나로시스로
So Geshe again would like to share and thank you for your concern and your prayers and all the difficulties that you may have experienced and gone through in order to take better care of Geshe. So Geshe would really like to say thank you very much. And then Geshe from his own side will take very special care of his physical health, whatever difficulty or hardship that he may experience. He will definitely make an effort to focus on his physical welfare as well in order to be of benefit to others, and especially in light of Lama Zopa Rinpoche's advice to Geshe himself that he must do whatever in his capacity or ability to be a benefit to people there at the Chinrasic Institute in order to share the Buddha Dharma with everyone. So Geshe, to his best of his ability, will try to work for the benefit and the sake of others, to share the Buddha's teachings and to benefit others. So please do not worry yourselves about me. I will do my best to stay here and share what I can with you all for as long as possible. Masula.
대자 당한 니테스 직시야디다 넘버 산지 위치고 드레스라 디마당아 심바케 싱금에스 칼라데테 소신 걸등이 칼라서 가는 게 라고 치고스라 심바케 계신 거 말당에 치고 때 장바인자 아니 아주 치고에 다 저런서 만만치알에 뒤져야 말아왔어 뒤져 메디기 다지 아니 숑카붕아 지금 동하 니가 사마장야기 뒤져 메와리 차기 메디 간징한 수 도도로지 수 루루제니 돔지견이 깨지시에바이나 아니 페시 디펜토 체로지 용그리 삼고도스니 가디나 아니 돔로지 견이지 방어트 체게 탑시 제되기 위해서
So Geshe's ability or his expertise is about the teachings of the Buddha Dharma, what the Buddha taught us. So other than this, other than maybe perhaps cooking some nice meals or some nice food, this is the only ability that Geshe has, and the knowledge having studied the Buddha's teachings for a number of years. And from your side, many of you do not have a lot of free time to study the great texts in a lot of detail. So if Geshe is able to present those teachings that are in the great text in a brief or an abbreviated way, then this will be Geshe's contribution, and in a condensed and convenient way, then this would most likely be of greater benefit. Yeah. So Geshe will make an effort to present the Buddha's teachings and the teachings that are within the great texts in a brief and abbreviated way. Let's do that.
Tinza karsigolda number sanjibi church ondi dense damasona sum le goyor ta sum le goyor sra che nyamnen chiage phigi ta chi gom jayati labasum sayati zu sutum gi labasum ani tengin zinda sherabki laba gomya direndo asra ta sutum gi labasum kabdula karche gogorsa di zu di manzu lu da ngaki nyeba domya jorasra manzu mang che ta lunga ki toni nyeba mambu shochik ro Geshe sheba ina pena ta chi shen la gyönjo che ro da shen la nöya da shen la poya da kanji ani tindi ki Geshe ti mang she gorasa tutsu cholan ro ya Geshe she la soba anji lu namgyur chi tenba ina ya ani chi shen la ya poduk ro ya namgyur ten la soba shen ki pe ani tseso la nöya ki lu namgyur ten ya teni shen ki longzhe la nöya 간지 셴을 네바키 이야기지 아니 르 남주 망부 쇼치 탱구여라서 아니 나그거니나 다가라 대진자 아니 출점 송야 그거 쪼디 르다 나기 네바 dom야기 쳐도 아니 출점 송고도 아스라 출점 마소나 르나기 네바 짜오니니다 dom투기여 말이스 dom야기 르나기 네바디 다야기 님보디 수rum 글라바드레도 아스라
Going to Kenlani, bit laxong. Bit laxong any it's the chasha, bit chasha. Any good it labsum it super dang ja catchayagi any chusu troyagi did any di batu any cosan di yola any copason.
Yeah. 진짜 수tum 글라바 송야 그거 쪼디 수tum 글라바디 가리기 체도 송거였는데 르다 나게 녀바 르다 나게다 메기위 차와져라다 르 토니 지 셴레 네비 셴그 솔라 네비 셴기 비 아니 샘컴라 포두드레 남주때야 셴그 론절 네야겠다 르그 남줄 르그 레저라 디 도미야겠다 아니 나게 거니 지 어디서 도매하기 쳐도 두서 가야기 쳐도 술좀 송야들이스 술좀 송야 그거 쪼디 릉악 예저 도매하기 쳐들이스라.
Sorry, I think I dropped out there. But what Geshe mentioned was that the Buddha Dharma can be divided into three broad categories. So those categories are something that can be practiced and meditated on. So those three broad categories are the higher trainings in ethical discipline, concentration, and wisdom. So they're the three higher trainings here. So in terms of the first one of the ethical discipline, this mainly consists of restraining the non-virtuous activities of one's body, speech, and mind. Body and speech, sorry. So this specifically refers to restraining from those non-virtuous actions of one's physical activities and verbal activities. So physical activities such as taking the life of others, taking the possessions of others, and also verbally, so harming others verbally, either that harms speech, that harms the minds of others. So the fact is that the first of the 3 higher trainings, the trainings in ethical discipline, mainly refer to restraining those non-virtuous activities or that negative behavior in terms of one's physical body and our verbal speech. Yeah. Masula.
There's a 당간주 두 때대 봐이나 그러봐 술좀 송인디 레야 릉하기 녀바디 뇽한도 왔으라 릉하기 녀 가서 다지 술좀 뭐송이 디게 릉하기 녀주 dom싱 말했어 현라 네비 차와카리나 현라 포도도에 현라 견주치야 야 태선 메비톤 덕바 메비톤 배 현라 견주치야래 채난다 자원이 메비톤 지기도 하더라 뜻 가리끼야랬으나 간지 랑기 규지 술좀 쏘마투 견차고 그랬어 셴바 가야 말했어 현라 견 가르통 바이네야 소술에 술좀 여바나 견주가 책이 된거 말했어 현라 견주 지역 책이 된거 말했어 술좀 넘버 타고 송이 지인 바이나 배나 개념 domba 넘버 타고 송이 지인 바이나 소수 규지 술좀 견쇼그레 삼니 미션의 견주 책이 말았어 야채기하다면 지금 말했어.
So if we take a look like this, then if we're practicing and protecting ethical discipline, then we'll be reducing those negative behaviors of our body and speech. And thereby we will be naturally reducing those faulty behaviors of our body and speech. Yeah. Whereas people that do not place emphasis on restraining the physical and verbal actions, they don't know how to restrain those faulty behaviors and avoid those different faults. But instead, they end up acting and speaking in ways that harm others. Yeah? They harm others verbally or physically. But if somebody is trying to protect their ethical discipline, then they will be learning the methods in order to avoid those faults of engaging in that negative behavior, physical or verbal negative behavior. So naturally, this understanding and protecting of our vows, maybe the personal liberation vows or the pratimokshya vows, this will naturally allow us to not engage in that faulty behavior. Nasula.
속죄지마이나 심진생 속죄이마이나 비기다 수중기 나바송 공인지마이나 다른 간즈 넘버 3기바지기마이나 수중기 나바송 고고다스라 만탈라 메기주봉 수중 송고고요라스 메기주름 랑기 규지 메기주봉 수중 디 비기 약부지다 아니 디 용야라 디 송, 디 멘트 초디 송고 그러스라. 셴그 속제바이나, 셴그 속제바이나, 칼 뉴거스디 랑기 주지 수정기 라발 뉴거스라. 디 상무 다운디 자와 니니 속제비 레런 주고 말아왔어. 다 속제비 레런 주고 댕이 카르스나 랑기 수정기 라발이야. 상무 당 무퉁에 미싱인지 임바이나 아니 파쇼미 속제발라 세난 거래요 말했어. 로 아니 개왕하시 개마나 레준데 개마나 수름글라바 송고면나 아니 생그 속제나 가리어셋. 다 미세바이나 팀간 쪽을 정간의 차를 차. 이 도바시르만데 지단 그 속제발라 아니 가얀 잼고 말았어. 디견데 가늘레르스나 수름글라바 매밤 수름글라바 소마시바 소마투비 왕기 더 수점 글라발은 오늘 제대치댕이 상로 단딩이 지만은 자원이니 생그 소체그 말이 생그 론추 꾸먹고 말이 생라 포둑 줘야기 Shenla Nuyagi, Geshe Shigmaris. Kolong Pigi Tachi, and in Controdan, Narjedan, Chagdodan, and in Jansam Kunilani, Geshe Savanin Shigmaris.
So, for example, if we take the example of taking the life of another being, if one is a Buddhist practitioner, then we will know that this would be going against our ethical discipline. So, of course, as a Buddhist practitioner, we'll be trying to practice the 3 higher trainings, especially in this time. We are practicing the higher training of ethical discipline. But also from a Buddhist perspective, as a Buddhist practitioner, one is restraining from the 10 non-virtuous actions. Yeah. So the 10 non-virtues, if we are protecting the opposite of those 10 non-virtues, then we are protecting those 10 virtuous activities. So then when we're able to reflect on those, then we understand that the taking the life of another, the first of restraining of the 10 non-virtuous, then yes, it does harm the other, but ultimately it's going to be harming oneself. Yeah. But if somebody is not versed or does not have an understanding of what to restrain or avoid, then we're not going to be able to extrapolate our understanding that this is going to be harming others, but also ourselves. And then on that basis, if that person, that Buddhist practitioner, does not have strong belief in the existence of past and future lives, for example, then yes, in this life, they may result in being charged and taken to prison as a result of taking the life of another. But they will not have a deep conviction that there is going to be a result in the past and future lives, because they don't understand that that action is faulty by nature. So if we're a Buddhist practitioner, then we're necessarily going to be trying to cultivate these 3 higher trainings within our mental continuum, especially at this time, the cultivating the ethical training, ethical discipline. So this necessarily means that when we are able to reflect on those faults, then we can see that our motivation is not going to be guided by anger, attachment, or jealousy or competitiveness, because we are practicing that ethical restraint. That's it.
Adire Tinzang Nganzu Tambu Luda Ngaki Nyeba Dongo Yores. The Nyeba Nani Kaso that Rakbadi Lungaki Nyeba Nichotres. Tini Nibadi Numun sing the Chagores. Somebody Numun Bishabe Pacham, Shiji Druba said, Kerashingra.
No.
Shiji Druba said Chagres. That this song Nang Tomadi Lungaki Nichu Domatuna. And Lungaki Nichu Domatuna, Tiniba Numu Pan Tuyad, Savani Yoga Maris. Numu Pan Matuna, Numun Bishabe Pacham, Shiji Druba said, Savanita, Panya, the Tabishikora Yomares. That Shiji Druba Pan, the Sangi, Sangiadi, Shiji Druba Pan, Sangi Gugures. Then the number Sangi we chew with me you tadu di. Sumjian Tamjig Pendi Yanta was driven to Yachido, Sangi combatant Niadi, Miyu Tadudris, Miyu Tadud. Sangi Kombatobala, Shiji Driva Pango, Shiji Driva Pangwala, Nimu Pango, or Nimu Pambalaya, Lunga in Yejo Domgo insa, Thomas Sudum Lava Songoyadia, Dichagores.
So in the beginning, it's imperative that one must restrain one's faulty behavior of the body and speech. Because on a very coarse or initial level, we must avoid and restrain faulty behavior of one's body and speech. And then secondly, we restrain or subdue those afflictive emotions. And then thirdly, we're able to remove or abandon those imprints of those afflictive emotions. So, and then in that ways, ultimately, we're able to remove the final obscuration, that obscuration to omniscience. Yeah. So, firstly, if we're able to restrain our physical and our mental and our verbal negative behaviors, but if we're unable to restrain our physical and verbal negative behaviors, then we'll be unable to subdue our afflictive or disturbing emotions. And then likewise, if we're unable to subdue the afflictive emotions, then we're unable to remove the imprints from those afflictive emotions. And then ultimately, we'll be unable to abandon or completely cease the obscuration to omniscience, which is the final obscuration that is preventing the attainment of Buddhahood, of full enlightenment. So in order to attain full enlightenment or Buddhahood, then one must necessarily remove that obscuration to omniscience. So in order to do that, we must remove those imprints left by the afflictive or destructive emotions. And in order to subdue those afflictive or destructive emotions, then one must be necessarily restraining the negative behaviors of one's physical body and speech. So this is our ultimate motivation or objective for us to achieve complete enlightenment of Buddhahood. So without the physical or verbal restraint, then we are unable to achieve that ultimate goal. So this is why the presentation on ethical discipline was presented firstly in the initial, from the outset. Let's do
that. Nyebapang lelhashudi lungagi nyechut chagwares. Tanganzu lungagi nyechut domatuwaina nyumupang tuyagi tapshi sawini yomarwas. In the meeting di nanoloya nambasanji vichula shuni lungagi nyechu injimi domtu gogresra. Lochu chonga nyushu sumchuchi. Droya baina lungagi nyechu the neighbor to domtu gogdasra. Lochu chonga nyushu sumju nambasanji vichu jani lungagi nyechu domatuwaina. Tenda kalakaba perwasra. Kanji chue jandandi no droguyores. Tsultrim labadi ge nying domba inanda, kyamdu domba inanda, ge tsulung domba inanda, karile yobaina, Geshe jatamba domba sondandi no droguyebi tagre mado, yang tagbaji somba ina, luchu chonga nalola lunga ki nyecho de Geshe jatamba dom tugeshi. Semba tsangmaji keni, tiyong tugures.
So the easiest things that we can adjust and we can improve on is restraining our negative behaviors of our body and speech. So this is a very easy way in order to improve and practice that ethical discipline. So, but without removing those negative behaviors, then we're unable to abandon those afflictive emotions. So it's really imperative that we restrain and remove our negative behaviors of body and speech in particular. So, and we must practice this over a long period of time, 10 years, 15 years, 20, 30 years. We must restrain the negative behaviors of our body and speech over a long period of time. And in particular, if we study the Buddha Dharma, then if we're studying over 10, 15, 20, 30 years, but we do not restrain our negative behaviors of body and speech, then this is really a big mistake. Yeah. mistakenly practicing the Buddha Dharma. Yeah. So especially if we've taken in the context of vows, if we've taken these individual liberation vows, but if we at the same time still do not restrain the verbal and physical behaviors, then this is also a sign that we are practicing in a very mistaken way. Yeah. So, but if we start with restraining our physical and verbal behaviors and reducing those negative behaviors, that this is something that is most definitely achievable and possible to do.
대당 안서 깝깔 강아 태고르다 강아 태고르다 그 미 견통용 그리 아 되니 견통디 견저 다 무척서다 라비오 말했어 내가 디치 디피 캐치문다 람람 나노라야 견 마주스 견 저나 고바요 말했어 견 저나 소소라 경라 그랬어 마도 람람 나노 견저 초고 말했어 송요 말했어 딩니버드 아니 예와 최고 그랬어 초고 말했어야디 요 말했어 견 저바이나 소수규기 domba yongejina domba newres ani kewa chima kelengejina kewa chima le newres keren mi symbol gen jobaina ona gen tong gres gen tong sigres gen toya de karresna gen toya di ani gen toya gen di pegi ani yulkorang ting tsurtubare veslana mares 소수 샘니 파 쇠샤가 지레스 견 통행 로디 소수 길어요레스 소수 뉴몬비 왕기 마릭비 왕기 견 통구요레스 마도 산지 찬성기 아니 견 통구요 마레스 산지 찬성기 순터질이야 시바이나 제비 왕기 닌지스 따투구요라스라 콘도 사기문다 견 간스나 곧 이동안 통과래 비기 농축 쉬어야지 뉴몬부 왕기 제와를 마도 강사 코랑원이 제와 말해스 어두 상당원디 견 통야디 소수원이 소수가 남주다 아니 제비 상바당 딘디기 당금해봐 인자 견 통과를 마도 이 코랑이 띵니스 견 트셔가지 자원이 말해스 디송여레스라 딘디 상당바이나 견 통야디야 나라 농주레샤 삼야기 야지자다마 상당 투그레 디땅바이나 아니 견 저마고야 차그레스
So we may see faults in others, yeah, and we may feel very moved to speak out about that, yeah. So, but it's not that we're not allowed to speak out about that. For example, when we take what Great Master Lama Tsongkhapa in the graduated stages to enlightenment, or the Lamrim Chimur, it says that do not speak out or not express the faults of others. But it's never mentioned that we're not allowed to express the fault of others. Yeah. So if we do express the fault of others, though, in general, then there is a danger that this expression of highlighting the fault in another is actually going to be harming our own vows, our own personal restraints here. And in particular, if somebody is accepting of the existence of past and future lives, then it is said that it is also harmful for our future lives if we express the faults of others. Yeah. But it was never mentioned that we are not allowed to express the faults of others. So Geshe wanted to make very clear that there is a distinction about expressing the faults of others, but we are not allowed, but indeed we are allowed. Yeah. So when we take, for example, on the side that we do in the case of expressing a fault about others, then we need to contemplate that the fault, does that exist naturally in the side of the object or that person? So, but if we think maybe that fault is coming from my own mind, I have the afflictive emotions, and that fault is actually being projected onto the other. The fault doesn't exist in the nature of the other, but the fault actually exists within my own mind due to my own ignorance and afflictive emotions. Yeah. So this fault is actually generated by my own mind. So if we, for example, if you take the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas, they don't see faults in others because their minds are fully motivated by the great compassion, and they only view others in an endearing way. So they don't see any faults in others. Yeah. So, and they understand that faults are not in the nature of the object or the nature of the person. Yeah. So, but because we do not use our own discriminating wisdom and we do not have that same love and compassion, then we do see and we're able to observe faults in others. But we need to understand that this fault is only appearing to us due to our ignorance and our afflictive emotions. Let's do that.
사상지만으로 사상 창부지여나 교가디 참 교가도 알았던 거라다 알았더니 라스온디 남주 창부칭이지만 라스온디 아니 사상 년다 땅딩이 초바자기 딘디 연구여라서라 그게 샘 추곤디 아니 초바자기도 하서라 드난신기 뉴몬비 샘 추곤디 견통인 거레스 뉴몬비 샘 추곤디 아니 밀레야 견통인 거레스 뉴몬비기 샘 만추바이나 샘 짱마 장바다 년지다 아니 즉 셔럽을 소비기 남주 프로드 총이기 아니 샘 여바이나 견통고 말레스 제비 왕기 제비 시토 그레스 제와 제토 그레스 펜도 제토 그레스 장부 제토 그레스라 딘장한 나당한다와기 미일 견통야디 수수 남주 근당가 매바디 임바 더 세부 쇼레스라
So, for example, if we take a large family, yeah, and for, in this case, the husband regularly drinks a lot of alcohol and becomes under the influence of that alcohol. And then at that time, his mind is heavily intoxicated and very disturbed. And as a result of this, he can argue, he can fight, and really create a very massive disturbance within the family. But we can see that the mind is under the influence of that alcohol, and it's really, in fact, very disturbed. So in the same way, when we understand that our own minds are disturbed by these afflictive emotions, we can very easily see faults in others, yeah, when our mind is disturbed, yeah. But if we have a very clean mind, or a mind that has only got love, compassion, and wisdom, then really you only see others in a very endearing way, and you act in a very kind and thoughtful, considerate way. So, but when we see the faults in others, then really we can think that yes, we see that fault, but it's due to our own disturbing emotions. Let's learn.
딘자 가드위나 삽섭치느라 간지 남아 산집이 취칭인지 바나 가드위나 삽섭치느라 소수 아니 게제시에 있는다 레가치에 있는다 배 삽섭치 딱지에지는 로고야지. 장부치는 로고야지. 자기도 하더라. 농주셔는 농주래. 디 소설 뉴거레스. 소설 뉴거리 샹은 뉴거레스. 디 깨원 델 뉴거리 깨워 치말 뉴거레스. 진짜 가두이는 삽삽치는 줘야지. 디레도 하더라. 좀 된디 배운디 배 아니 야림불 시기요 말레스. 듄을 시기니 배고라. 가 삽삽친 듄금 부싱지라 이나는 네버 마치어친. 공부하고 온데 삽삽친 배고라스. 좀 된디 진주 개론 속에 아니 배 듄을 시기니 원치는 듄을 시기니 공부하는 로고거레스. 딘디기 배 삽삽친 로고야지래도 하더라.
So we must be very careful. As Buddhist practitioners, we must be very careful or mindful of our body, physical actions, and our verbal actions when we're speaking or when we're engaging in work and activities. So we must be very mindful and have introspection as we engage in these things. And of course, mistakes happen. Yes, mistakes happen, and we regard them as a mistake. But we need to understand that this faulty behavior, this mistaken behavior, is going to be harming oneself. It's going to be harming others. It's going to be not only harming in this life, but also future lives. So, for example, the Buddha and the Buddha's followers, they didn't look far into the distance when they were walking, but they would look very immediately in front of them to see if they were harming another being, for example, harming an insect. Yeah? So they didn't look far ahead, but they would look in the immediate vicinity to see if there was going to be any harm. Yeah? So in this way, likewise, we need to be very careful in our verbal and our physical activities.
먼저 자외기 팀 나눠라. 자외투수 팀 나눠라. 아니 듄이 파 미터 니를 학. 아니 마탄 조고 거레스. 뭐네 제와나. 소순 듄을 땐 두스 조원디 소순 듄 칸델이야. 약보 쓰는 조고 거레스. 먼저 별라 임바이나. 자와들 샤무지라. 샤무지 두스 마 캡딩이지. And 야름은 통말 딘지 망제 딘지 컨그레스 야카투서 야칼 학도인데 컨그레스 간스는 야카 사간에 부싱 망부 쇼여라 부싱 망부 쇼여반사 깜베월은 부싱 세야기 년가 체여이레스 딘자 두속이라 만뇌야 체도 베티 듄라 사비서친데 오늘 아니 냠냠바 챈데도서 sabso 쇼진의 페브리스 셴라이 만네야체 다른 볼 때는 드자와는 뒤에 여기 소차도서 통고 말은 아니 콘솔 네버키 냥가요 디리진 조거레스 딱 원내 지 넘버 산지와 챈덴지만 디리 제고다서라 간지 셴라야 만네비 차와지 제바나 디 게와레스 디 게와디게 아니 소수 가서 샘라야 게위 니바치 제거리 디 니바디 샘 냠도 깨워치말은 로거레스 다 델라 주진 샘바지 차원디 니바디 엠페르진 아니 깨워치마 깨워 약불내야 깨워치마 냠내 약불 셰투야로 소비기 돌아 펜도 연구 연자 엔센 델라 깨워치는 깨워치말에 펜하게 윤센 디 드리토니 상당해리스
So, for example, monks' discipline or the monastic discipline, it is mentioned that the monastic must not look any farther than 2 meters in front of them or ahead of them. Yeah. So, and when you're looking, then you must look very well, very heavily in order to not step on or harm the body of an insect, for example. Yeah. Now, in Tibet, during the summer period, then a lot of people would wear very long and flat hats, yeah, to keep the sun off their head, yeah. But their vision would be impaired there, but they would not be able to see very far. But they would be able to focus their eyes on the very close distance, very near in front of them, yeah. But you would think that if they're focusing and looking at the very, for insects, then it's during the summertime, there's a higher probability of more insects coming about. Yeah. So people would try to stay looking in the immediate distance in front of them in order to not step on or kill any insects that are much more numerous in the summer periods. Yeah. So a really sort of dedicated Buddhist practitioner would think that I would not want to harm others. So this is actually a very virtuous thought. Yeah, this virtuous thought in order to not harm others, in this case, an insect, for example, then they would think that if I harm others, then this would be a negative result in my future lives. So they would think in order for me to gain a more positive rebirth in the future, in our next life, and in order to gain the opportunities to study and reflect, then they would very, very strongly practice this practice of restraining from harming others by not stepping on insects in this example. So really, this virtuous activity is really something that will give rise to the potential of us gaining a positive future rebirth. So for this reason, yeah, that many of the dedicated practitioners in Tibet would tread very heavily and very lightly, especially the summer periods. Masala.
Terdinza kanji Tsultrim yakbuch songin jimbayna lunga ki nichu domgres. Ra lunga ki nichu domgres. Ta Tsultrim yakbuch songyala ya. Ani nganzu temba sanji chomden dila ya ichiki teba gogodas ra. Teba gogodas. Sanji chomden dila ya teba yakbuch yobayna sanji chomden digi nangshabi Tsultrim laba tiya za chenbuch 통거was. 자 첨부지 통거와. 자 첨부지 통와나 디 약부지 냐게라스라. 먼저 잘라드 치발 잘라 약부지 소소 잘라 자 첨부지 디 서비스 슈 냐게라. 디 잘라디 친 딜라 지 펜나 펜을 모두 깨워치마 펜 야기 개요마라스라. 이번에 디코 자 첨부지 온디 서비스 슈 냐게라스라. 또 수정 글라바디 केवन दिस समासे संग मागी पर्दु सुजुम ग्लाबद पेंदो शिवजोरासर तिंजी की नेंगा जिन थोबायना अनि सुजुम सोयाला गाशिन ट्रोशिंग तोने सुजुम सोंगरेस सुजुम सोंदी लुंगा की निजु दोमिंगरेस लुंगा की निजु दोमिंदी लुंगा की निजु 그 कोलों पि기 때 निमु도서 랑신 까그레스 봐 निमु기 온디 텔레 님보 때네 라 디 온도 만도야 다 domsum chigir wasra tindipe kechembu isaresra
Go domsum go ane
domgras domsna gora
no go and go sum lamna ane nas lung yisum plus So if we are practicing ethical discipline, the higher training of ethical discipline, well, then we will be restraining the negative behaviors of our body and speech. Yeah. So in order to practice the ethical training or the higher training in ethical discipline, in order to do that well, we actually need a deep faith and conviction in the Buddha. Yeah, because the Buddha himself considered ethical training, ethical discipline as something that's very precious. So, for example, if we have a very precious object, material possession, we treat it very carefully because we regard it as being something precious. So, but that material possession is something that is only maybe beneficial for this life alone. But if the practice of keeping ethical discipline, we can regard that as something being so precious because it'll bring not only benefit in this life, but in also all the lives going up to when we achieve in full enlightenment or Buddhahood until we achieve that. So it's going to be beneficial in all of our lives into the future. So, and on that basis, practicing in a very careful and considerate way, then at the same time, because we understand how precious it is, not only this life, but all future lives, but we can then practice with a very joyous and in a very diligent way, a practice of our ethical discipline. So when our afflictive emotions, when they arise, naturally we will be expressing faulty behavior, negative behavior. So, but if we're able to restrain the negative behavior of our body, speech, and mind, then this is something that we need to consider as something very important. Lasula.
Terda, 점된딜이야 대바 야부치에. 아니 점된디기 최 술디 소소라 아니 마땡인기 라마기 위신이야 대바 야부치여 봐나. 아니 디니 톱샤비 소통기 라바티 지디 쇼치토 그레스. 야부치 냐토 그레스. 송토 그레스. 디 송바이나 소술 융하기 니주 돔토 그레스. 융하기 니주 돔바이나 셈라야 착당 몽송 로케야디 슈크촌 드로그레스 딘 드로바이나 셈바키 우차그레스 셈 짱마 차그레스 셈 짱마 차온디 착당 로 가주스 뇽드로 디츠기 아니 디기 도쇼기 아니 직 잠년지 잔주고 셈세다 직 아니 동반이 또비 셰럽세는데 셰럽 남주기 로 야가디 고니 페르고레스 디코 춘예레스라 samlo dugo tanya di khazu nyor tangbayna samlo dugo tanya di khazu nyor tangbayna samlo dugo keagi pi shitsagi leba jorasra tinsan shegdo leba di lega nyor chigres samlo dugo nyumu tukson koryagi leba jora leba di lega nyor chigres leba di lega nyor che leba di lega mambu machin yurum chaondi leba di ani karso taji nuba mejozo chain ani dig dosholaya ani jinginji da sherab da philosophy ani lebitsa dia compartroni ani namju chen dogres o dindi segdo di jacha jada ma insar wasro.
So in order to practice ethical discipline well, then we need to have faith and conviction in the Buddha. And also, we need faith in the teacher, the spiritual friend that is sharing the Buddha Dharma with us. Yeah. So to practice ethical training or ethical discipline, we need to restrain the negative behaviors of our three doors of our body, speech, and mind. Yeah. So whereas if we have attachment, anger, and ignorance, then however much that we have these disturbing emotions within our mind, then we're not going to be able to experience that peace, love, and happiness, yeah, within our own mind. Our mind is not going to be very clean, yeah. Yeah. So if we do have those afflictive emotions of attachment, hatred, and ignorance, and so on, then they're counter forces of love or compassion and wisdom. We need to develop this wisdom, yeah, again and again. We need to increase it. But if those afflictive emotions are there, then that wisdom has no room to be developed or cultivated, yeah. So, however much we're allowing those afflictive emotions to dominate our minds, those three poisons to dominate our minds, those neural pathways, our brain, the nerves in our brains are going to be strengthened and strengthened. And really, those positive qualities or those positive mindsets of love, compassion, and so forth are going to be dormant, or less used, and less active. So you can really think that if we put the negative afflictive emotions as being something very dominant, then in our brain, of the physical aspects of the nerves and so forth are going to be very active. Yeah, so we can probably reflect in this way to think that physically the brain is reacting in this way. That's no.
Tira nganzuki lungaki nyechu tsawni ni madombayna lungaki nyechu ko wang soni kanji nyumu tusum kiyagi ani tsaji gorasra le tsaji gora digi lega janjang chiondi ani tsadi shukchir ro ani sherab kiya ninji kiya gewilo kiyagi tsaji gora tela ya nuba meju sochi o dindi chago wasaras ti gacha gyadam chago wasaras tinsa nganzuki nyumumbi choki tsajiora tela lega mateni tiba kani kadzu tudugu gomgya undi ninji dan chanjugu semda chamba dan jigyora tomba nitobi sherablo sobole kadzu tudugu gomgya waina nyumumbi tsadile lega mewa chagora sira chagdam monson kiyagi tsalaye lega mewa chagora dus lega diri mate sanyi mate mintuni dawa de lotu usu drondi kansam jila kola ya shuk me chaji dus chini samtang ba ina yasha jada ma in digo sares tanza lo chuchanga nano le ya nanzo Australia mishima da aridwale takje mambu cheores lama keda chimbu geshi keda chimbu mambu le ya anin senri ba lo leba le ya lo gar chinro and tsa countries gyo leba countries gyo drogu yeme gom mixe gom jangan sula ya mixe leba di mixe dos no konzo tumje kor ten yores emoran sula labda la ya tindi chiora
No. So it's very important to restrain the negative behaviors of one's body and speech, because we understand from a scientific perspective that those neural pathways or those nerves within the brain themselves, the more that they're used, the stronger they are becoming. So if we are emphasizing those negative emotions, those afflictive emotions more and more, then those neural pathways are going to be habituated and being stronger and stronger. And then on the other side, then thoughts of wisdom, thoughts of love and compassion, and virtuous thoughts, those neural pathways associated with those virtuous thoughts are becoming less powerful or powerless. Yeah. So we can understand from this sort of brain perspective. Yeah. So it's very important that we put a stop to these afflictive emotions. Yeah. As much as we can, we try to meditate and reflect on those positive qualities, such as love, compassion, wisdom, and so forth. So when we are able to reduce and put a stop to those negative actions, perhaps over many months, days, many months, and so forth, then the strength of those neural pathways will be lessening, and then the positive qualities will be strengthening. Yeah. So, for example, over 10 or 15 years or so, perhaps in Australia, but most definitely in the US, there are researchers and professionals that are looking into the study of the brain's activity given when somebody is meditating. So apparently at the Emory University, there's been studies that have been undertaken that are looking at the brain's activities that is happening, that is highlighted when somebody is engaging in meditation on compassion, for example. So there's been a lot of research and a lot of results have come of that research by professors and other students from, in this case, Emory University. That's all.
Terda, teni pena Tsultrim labi jela ya di yungu tas pena chomden digi thoma Tsultrim laba soni di jela te denshi namsha songu yores. Denshi namsha do stebaina demba shi namsha di nguyo nisuk ton. Gyu kharila denin debu khari yungu do o dindigi tonro song yores. Di song di denshi tola samtang di ngebar nguyo nisu khari imba samtang thiri modo shemba khan yo mundo asra. Nguyo nisu kandashi yungundu kandashi gyodugudu nguyo nisu tola samtang direndas. Ta nguyo nisu tola samlo katsus tangba ina ya tangba imba ina sherab gitsal pengor sherab kigor sarwa sherab sherab namjugi sherab saydi kigores. Sherab katsusugi sherab tola karsa nguyo nisul samtangwandi nguyo nisula mombigi momba marigba chora marigbi kanji marigbi tsala lega mewa chagores lebe nangi marigbi kiwi tsa chora marigba kiyagi tsa chora marigba kiyagi tsala lega mewa chagores keran denshi tola ya tiri gomgyev sanyi gomgyev dawa ne dawa lo ne lo tu ne demba shigi tola gomgyevda 가즈스 검기압도 디 뒤서링이야 아니 뉴문기야게 짜래 내가 매워 자고 왔으라 아니 뉴문용 저거레스
So, for example, once the Buddha Shakyamuni taught or presented about restraining and practicing the ethical discipline, then the Buddha taught this at the outset. But then secondly, he taught about the Four Noble Truths, yeah? And the Four Noble Truths is actually a presentation on the actual nature of reality, the way that a situation actually exists, yeah, in relation to cause and effect and so forth. So if we think in terms of how the actual situation is, yeah, then we can, this reflection is only going to be of benefit. It's only going to be very useful for us, yeah? And it's going to be very useful in terms of developing our own discrimination and our own wisdom. So if we're able to reflect on how the actual situation, how the very nature of reality is, that this is going to be beneficial for our own discrimination and our own wisdom. Whereas as an opposite, we feel we have this natural sort of ignorance, which is a confusion to this actual nature of reality. Yeah. So this neural pathway of ignorance is something that is very highly developed, very strong within our own brain. But if we meditate, if we reflect on teachings such as the Four Noble Truths and the presentation that goes along with all of that, then if we meditate on a weekly basis and then we do it monthly and yearly, and we do this on a continuous basis, then we will see that naturally our own afflictive emotions will be reducing. And those associated neural pathways will also become more powerless. That's all.
예 단다 먼저 하버스는 정도 수점 땡인즈의 셔럽 시험인데 땡인즈의 셔럽 라바 시험인데 소 덴바시 시행도 소 덴바시 시행을 학도도 땡인즈기 미바 시험인데 덴바시 시행거래스 넘버 3집이 쇼니 벨 하버스음기 난게 땡인즈기 라바 시험인데 땡인즈기 라비 미바라 가르쳐서 소 덴바시 시행거래스
That's it.
덴바시 돌아 가츠스기 상무 땅바이나 디츠기 걔랑 갈사 뉴문의 뉴거스 간지 봐 가야 상로마탄 가야 일라 마치니 다가스 비기게 아니 곰 잡아이나 디기 에 셔럽기엘의 펜야기 균센스키 문도 하스라 레서 야르도야 균센스키 문도 하스라 성도 야고단다 땡인즈 시온디 땡인즈 미발이야 베나 뜻수 주든 참방 공부 온도전에 송거레스 덴시 조샤요스 람런 체몬의 따다 땡인즈 미발이야 조고 덴시자 개체슈 덴바시샤요스 덴상한 주기 곰갸온디 가르곰 거스나 덴바시 곰고레스 덴바시 담보 딱지 하고 진 덴바시라 좋은디 아니 덴바시라야 미니 아니 셈테니 셈샤투 순저바나 야자자 담바 테니 뉴물라야 뉴문비 짤야 레가메와 뉴무마키야 아니 셔럽키야 뭐요 내선 통원디 덴베닐로 통원디 테니 닌지키야라 소와 아니 잔죽 셈키야 아니 산지 살은드야디 공무요 내선 덴비 람르 테는 로고다스로
So the three higher trainings of the first is the ethical training, yeah. But the second higher training in concentration and wisdom, you can find that their main object, for example, the main object in the higher training in concentration is the presentation on the Four Noble Truths, yeah. So however much we're able to reflect and think about the presentation of the Four Noble Truths, then that much is our negative and afflictive emotions are going to be subdued and they're going to be reduced. Yeah. So whereas if we don't think about or we don't meditate, if we just do it in a very general way, then really there's not going to be any benefit to that. There's no real purpose. But the presentation of the Four Noble Truths is the very object of the second higher training, the higher training of concentration. Now, the great Maitreya in his text, The Ornament of Clear Realization, is presented in the Lamrim Chemo. If you would like to look it up, then the Maitreya has said that the object of one's concentration is mainly going to be focused on the presentation of the Four Noble Truths. Yeah. So in the beginning, in order to meditate on the Four Noble Truths, one must study, one must reflect, and based on that, one must develop a conviction of the Four Noble Truths. And on one's conviction, then we practice the Four Noble Truths. And then gained by our meditation, our afflictive emotions will naturally being reduced and subdued. And naturally, our wisdom and discrimination will be increasing. And thereby, by seeing the actual situation or the true nature of reality, then naturally our love and compassion and so forth will be arising. So this is really the true path to liberation and Buddhahood. That's all.
일단 견장장 상당되와나 생기 견장장 상당되와나 차단 유무 기획이라서 선바 기우요 말이 소소 지구 대등인지 말이 기우요 말이스 라랑 생기 견 상당디 기부 문다스라 아주 콘트로스는 기우요 말이 chakpa shuk chenpo yana kiwi yo mare ta chakdo dan densam tuzu yana kanchi kiwi mu dasra ta chi tsesam dan changpa dan ta ngone chi nilu denpa shik tola ya samlu dan ya la sobi ani nipa yo bayana sempa kiwi yo res sempa kiwi yo res kanchi kiwi go warra ani nyumu la lega nyong te chakdan nyumu la lega mate sosu namche la ya lega te odo sunjo na yakbu da yakbu dasra sanji chöde dinra ujreshasra
So if only we focus on the faults of others, then this is going to be increasing our own afflictive emotions. We're looking only for the faults in others, and we're not going to experience any happiness at all because we're only looking for the faults in others. And when we experience anger, attachment, jealousy, competitiveness, and so on, we're never in a happy state of mind when we are experiencing these emotions. Yeah. So, whereas if we focus on a feeling of closeness to others, a feeling of kindness, warm heartedness, compassion, if we understand the true nature of reality in the context of the Four Noble Truths, then we will have the ability to feel very happy and very relaxed. Yeah. So we'll be able to give our work, so to speak, give our effort and energy to those positive behaviors. But we try to avoid giving our work or time and energy to those negative behaviors. Yeah. So this is really, in essence, what we say or what we mean by practicing the Buddha Dharma. We practice in this way. Ursula.
kanchi nyumu la kapte kya go dasra nyumu la ya data nyumu la lega mate nyumu la gyabgyur mache anzu gyabgyur chesa di mila gyabgyur che sherab dan ninji dan changpa la soba la ya lega te simjen la rokpa che sanje la teba che to sundro wa na yachi gyadamba sanji jomden di ta shu tu ni gira wasra sanji jomden di nganzu yachi gyadamba sik de yorata nganzu pha je tu yorma ma do sanji nganzu su sik de yora sanji chansa nganzu la sik de yor tuda namba kund nganzu la sik de yora was ichi yobay na yachi gyadamba sik yora isra 아니 nganzu ngone horta bada cheba na katsu sik tu ni gira nganzu la chelab juri so so gyobo gyobo 아니 지 냠네 야고 체토야 당한주 가르면 그 가르치네 산지 찬스 쌈로코라 마당지 아니 지 작단 유무 짠짱이야 잡교수로 치는 로데바나 아니 야고문도 아스라 아니 간주 기부 매와차 통부 매와차 창부 매기차 아니 로 마음부 쇼지 드로바이나야 딱바 자리야 이제는 처음도 아스라 라마 기위신이 저는 tukpong 그러스라
So really, we need to fight. We need to battle with our afflictive emotions. Don't protect them. Don't give those afflictive emotions refuge. Yeah. But we need to protect others. We need to help others. We need to cultivate our own positive qualities. We need to cultivate wisdom and discrimination. We need to cultivate our faith in the Buddha and the Buddha's teachings. Yeah. So, and if we practice and we engage in this way, then the Buddha himself would be delighted, would be overjoyed that we are practicing in this way. Regardless that we we may not see the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas directly, but we know if we have faith, we know that the Buddhas and Bodhisattvas can perceive us directly. So if we practice in this way, if we don't give any refuge to those afflictive emotions, but we cultivate those positive qualities, then if we practice as best as our ability allows us, then we'll be able to receive the blessings of those Buddhas and Bodhisattvas. Whereas if we just don't think about Buddhas and Bodhisattvas or positive qualities, positive actions, but we just remain with these afflictive emotions of attachment and anger and competitiveness and conflicting conflict with others, then this is not going to be very beneficial for ourselves. But indeed, this would actually be a cause for disappointment for our teachers, and the lamas would be very disappointed if we acted in this way. Let's
nga serala lo nish tsabden dera wasra lo nish tsabden lo nishu rin le nganzu lobjong cherada nganzu zinda chigba dosura sosu phama chigba le changba yores pe changbu yores nganzu zinda chigba dos zinda chigba ta nganzu tangbu nganzu zinda thoma di 1987 la tsuro 1987 nganzu zinda chigba migya da chudug yores
let's hear.
Teni nganzu ta nitong trug dun la Geshe tang ra. Nganzu Geshe tangi misumju sobden yes.
Sumju sobden.
Gyada chudug ni tama Geshe tangi misumju sobden yores. Nganzu pe changbu yores ra. Tandayina nganzu ani pegi karsa ta tajatindu group sechini nganzu Geshe shegores. Pe kibu yores. Chuba jagamares ra. Pe changbu yores. Nganzu pa jagala ro tusan lamsan zinda chi waz kedan ruru chin kala sa ro gores. Dindi changbu shu chaya da ra. Ta dindi machi wana kadun chuba jagda na chuba kyangya din mesi koran la ani chuba short din yabu manda asra. Tasal dindi yomares. Geshe jadam yomares ra. Pe changbu orda. nganzu dabala yarwa seragi tawaji thoma nganzu semna shu gaw yarda lamsan dro lagbatan keje she dewo imbes chadong dro tin chigor sra pe kiw yarda az gyndeng ani ko chew tol samlo tan chigchila roba chen roya mardo chuba jagmar chado chigmar sra.
So, for example, Geshe was at the Sera monastery for 27 years. And over a course of 20 years, the class engaged in their studies. So the people from the same class were very close and very friendly, and especially developed over this 20-year period. So the initial class started in 1987, and then at that time there were only about 116 students. But then as the 20-year period grew, more and more classes amalgamated, and then finally there were over 300 that were able to graduate their Geshe degree. So now, until this day, 300. No, Konda. Konda. Any answers?
27.
27.
37.
The Jukla. 37.
Last 37 monks come to
Geshe. All right, that makes much more sense. So sorry. So in the end of these 116 that were in the class, finally 37 37 graduated the Geshe degree. So now this group of 37, they are still very friendly and very close, and they connect regularly via the internet. They have an internet group, you know. So whenever they get together, they always make sure that they share a meal together. And then during that time, they're very friendly and very joyous and still feel very close together. So whereas if they, during this time, then if they were just fighting or if they were competing with each other, then really it wouldn't have been very enjoyable. Nobody would have been very happy at all. So the monastery is like this. Yeah. The monastery is a place where all of the monks are there to learn and discover what the Buddha Dharma is, but they're also there to help each other. So it's never in a competitive way. So immediately when Geshe sees a Sera monk, he feels very happy, and they discuss and they shake hands and they say, how are you going, straight away, because there's always this warm, close feeling amongst the monks from the same monastery. That's enough.
Thank you. Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Final Lamrim prayer. From my two types of merits, vasa space that I have amassed from working with effort at this practice for a grand land of time, may I become the chief leading Buddha for all those whose minds' wisdom eye is blinded by ignorance. Even if I do not reach this state, may I be held in your loving compassion for all life's Manjushri. May I find the best of complete graded paths of the teachings, and may I please all the Buddhas by my practice. Using skillful means drawn by the strong force of compassion, may I clear the darkness from the minds of all beings with the points of the path as I have discerned them. May I uphold the Buddha's teachings for a very long time. With my heart going out with great compassion, in whatever direction the most precious teachings have not yet spread, or once spread have declined, may I reveal this treasure of happiness and aid. May the minds of those who wish for liberation be granted boundless peace, and the Buddha's deeds be nourished for a long time. By even this graded path to enlightenment completed, due to the wondrous virtuous conduct of the Buddhas and their sons. May all human and non-human beings who eliminate adversity and create conducive conditions for practicing the excellent paths never be parted in any of their lives from the purest path praised by the Buddhas. Whenever someone makes effort to act in accordance with the tenfold Mahayana virtuous practices, may he always be assisted by the mighty ones, and may oceans of prosperity spread everywhere. Thank you.